So I did a video about patricians the other day, and someone asked, what's a patrician? And in all my time, in all the videos I've ever done, I have never talked about the rigid social hierarchy that was the Roman Republic. So what was Rome's hierarchy? On the bottom, you have slaves. Often captured in battle or brought back from foreign lands, you had no rights, you were property. On the lowest of the low, you have slaves that were just made to work. We are talking mining, farming, rowing ships to transport goods. You were used for manual labor till you died. The next step up, but still pretty low down, you have the lupanar slaves. These were the slaves of the adult industry. Some of them carried the title of scortum. It literally means leather because they were used like leather. Terrible existence. Next, you have high-end slaves, gladiators, charioteers. Still property, but higher up on the hierarchy. Next on the hierarchy is a step up, the liberti. You used to be a slave, but you had been freed. Still didn't have many rights. And more often than not, you worked for minimal wage for your former master. Next, you have the plebeian class, the plebs, the commoners. These were free citizens of Rome, but not rich. They were working class, artisans, tradesmen, that sort of thing. Regarding plebeian rights, it really does depend on the time period, but you kind of had it okay. You weren't doing great, but you were doing better than the slaves. But what were you looking at with roomy eyes? The next step up. The equites, the equestrian class. This is where you start getting into, the wealthy class. This was, businessmen, financiers, lawyers, high-ranking military officers, and knights. You had more rights. You took priority over the plebs. You owned property. When it came to war, you had access to horses. In fact, that's why they're called equites. It comes from the Latin, equus, horse. You could afford a horse. And if you were wealthy enough, you may, keyword, may, consider yourself upper class. But as all hierarchies work, you had to know your place, and your place was beneath the top rank, the patrician class. These were the senators, the aristocrats, the landowners, the noble families who were the descendants of those who built the system. They were born into absolute privilege and often never left it. Why? Because if you ran out of money, and patricians often did, you could always marry into more. Because Rome was a city built on status. If you weren't part of the aristocracy, you wanted to be. If you saw a chance to marry into one of the great families like the Claudii, the Cornelii, the Julii, no matter how poor they were, you'd bankroll it, you want the name. Because through marriage, you could cement your place at the top of the food chain. However, being a patrician does come with expectation. You were noble, and you were expected to act nobly. You didn't have the same fun that the plebs did. That's common. You have to carry yourself with gravitas and dignity. You were expected to do military service and win glory. It was the only way to advance in the Senate. And if you dishonored your family name or Rome, you were expected to die a noble death. And that is the hierarchy of Rome.